Welcome to Reparenting Radio. I'm Lisa Watson, architect of human transformation. This is a space for leaders, parents, and anyone ready to break old patterns, regulate their nervous system, and show up in their life with clarity and self-trust. If you're ready to change the way you lead, love, and live, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hi, and welcome back to Reparenting Radio. You know what's wild? I can be sitting in a perfectly safe room, like I am now. Nobody yelling, nobody threatening me, nothing actually wrong. And my body will still act like I'm late, like I'm behind, like something is about to happen if I don't hurry. I have recently relocated to San Diego about 2 weeks ago. So it's only been 2 weeks. And I've had this looping voice that keeps trying to do math on my worth. You should be further along by now. You should already have momentum. You should already know the plan. You should already be producing. Come on, Lisa, you're 57. What are you doing? Shouldn't you be thinking about retirement, not reinvention? And I want to pause right here because I know that some of you identify with that and felt that in your chest. Not because you're 57, not because you just relocated to San Diego, but because you recognize the tone. That voice isn't guidance. It's not leadership. It's a program, and it's a time program. And it's one of the sneakiest, most socially approved ways to punish ourselves. Time on its own is neutral, and time is a tool. We use time to meet a friend. We use it to catch a flight, to pick up our kids, to take our supplements and our medication. We use it to plan a launch or to write a book or to build a business, create something meaningful. So time is useful. But that's not what most of us are doing with it. Most of us are using time as a weapon, a quiet little weapon that we aim inward, and we call it motivation. But it's not motivation. It's shame wearing a business casual outfit. So if you've been feeling pressured, rushed, guilty, panicking, if you feel like your nervous system is constantly tapping its foot like an impatient manager, then this episode is for you. And I envy the people who are not running that program. Because because I'm running that program and I'm still working on unwinding it. This podcast isn't about managing time better. It's about using time psychologically to assault yourself simply with the concept of time. A huge amount of what we call time pressure is not actually about time. It's about identity. It's about safety, and it's about conditioning. It's about what we were taught would happen if we didn't perform fast enough, well enough, early enough, perfectly enough. And once you're able to see that in your own self, time stops being this heavy thing that you're carrying. And it becomes what is actually just a clock, a calendar, a tool, not a judge, not a jury, not a sentence. But let me give you some inside sort of information from my own brain. Because this week, I caught myself doing it in real time. As I had said, the little thoughts that just popped up, like you should be doing it faster. You're not doing it quick enough. You should be transitioned by now. I never allow those thoughts to take hold in me anymore. I'm simply the observer to them. which is the reparenting process. And with enough repetition, those thoughts will stop popping up because I refuse to engage in them. But this week, because I did catch those thoughts making themselves known to me, I would wake up, and instead of meeting the day with excitement or enthusiasm, I felt like I was on the edge of meeting it more like a scoreboard. Like, how much did I do yesterday? Did I move the needle? Am I behind? Am I wasting time? And to be really honest, when you've spent a lifetime being praised for productivity, for being the capable one, when you've spent a lifetime being the woman who can handle things and is expected to just handle things, the time program can masquerade as responsibility. And it can sound a lot like leadership. But it's not leadership if it's rooted in fear, shame, judgment. Leadership has a regulated tone. Leadership is steady. Leadership doesn't say, hurry up, you're failing. Effective leadership says, let's look clearly, let's decide, let's move. It takes in everything simply as information and then responds rather than reacts. Time used as a tool will give you clarity. Time used as a weapon produces shame. So what do these time programs really sound like? And are you running them? Well, let's find out. I hear them sounding like, you should be further along by now. Why is this taking you so long? Other people your age have already figured this out. You're behind. You wouldn't be here if you didn't do this, this, and that. You know you're running out of time. You know you wasted time today. You could have done this or should have done that. Well, you know if you don't do it right now, it's not going to happen. Oh, if I were just disciplined, my life would be so different. And if you really, really listen closely to your thoughts, to your self-talk, underneath that time program, underneath the time program language, is something even older. And it sounds like, if you don't perform, you're not safe. That's the root. That's the root of where the shame is coming from. That's what your nervous system learned. Because most of us didn't grow up in environments where we were celebrated for being. We were celebrated for doing. We were rewarded for being convenient. We were rewarded for being quick, behaved. We were rewarded for making it easier for adults. And some of us were raised in households where hurry up was basically a love language. Hurry up and get dressed. Hurry up and eat. Hurry up and stop crying. Hurry up and figure it out. Hurry up and get your shoes on. Hurry up and do your homework. Hurry up and just be okay. So your body learned that slow equals unsafe, that not performing is unsafe. And then you grow up and you start calling it ambition. But your nervous system knows the truth. It's not ambition if you feel like you're being chased. It's not ambition if it feels like it's giving you anxiety, if you're feeling anxious. So if you struggle with time, procrastination, perfectionism, rushing, freezing, avoiding, negative self-talk loops, these are not character flaws. It's simply information that your system is telling you how it learned to survive. time is not the enemy. Time isn't the problem. Your relationship with time is a mirror. And it's showing you where your safety got wired to performance. There's two branches of the time program that I find show up constantly. The first one is perfectionism. Perfectionism is a program, it's a time program that's disguised as standards. Perfectionism says, if I do it perfectly, I'll be safe. If I do it perfectly, no one can criticize me. I won't be rejected. I'll finally feel worthy. I'll be accepted. And here's what ends up happening. Perfectionism inflates the timeline because it has to be perfect. It can't be done yet. So you get stuck. You don't ship the thing. You don't post it. You don't publish it. You don't write it. You don't launch it. You don't do it yet because it needs to be perfect. And then the time program attacks you for being behind. So now you're in a loop. Perfectionism delays you. Shame attacks you. The pressure increases. Your nervous system tightens. And then there's more avoidance. That's not laziness. That's not a lack of discipline. That's a nervous system cycle. And then there's procrastination. Procrastination is often a time program disguised as I work better under pressure. But underneath procrastination is frequently I don't feel safe yet. I don't feel safe to be seen. I don't feel safe because I might do it wrong. I might disappoint someone. I might fail. I might not succeed. So the nervous system buys time. It delays, it distracts, it scrolls, it reorganizes the pantry like it's preparing for an apocalypse or something. And then again, the time program attacks you with, you should have done it by now. Why do I do this to myself? And you're assuming that you're the problem. But the problem is the program. And the program was installed through conditioning, through repetitive conditioning during our early years when our subconscious mind was being formed. Things you don't even remember. Which means that it can be rewritten through awareness, safety, repetition, and choice. So I want to give you an example of something that happened on a client call that I had recently, because it perfectly illustrates how deep this time program goes and how it rears its ugly head. I'm going to keep my client anonymous, obviously, but I want you to listen for the pattern here, all right? So this client, she told me that she had recently gone to a retreat, and she was working on grief and loneliness is really what she's moving through. And she said something like, I'm really having a hard time moving through this. And she started to give evidence of how it is that she's having a hard time. She says the last couple days were up and down. Some days I felt hopeful. Some days I felt really heavy. But I feel really caught up in it, she said. I'm just not doing very well with it. I'm really having a hard time. And this is where I interrupted her. Lovingly, of course. Because I could hear what was happening. She wasn't describing a life problem. She was describing a normal human process. But the time program had already labeled her as a failure. I'm having a hard time is code for I should be past this. I should be over this. This is taking too long. What's wrong with me? And I told her, First of all, stop saying, I'm having a hard time, okay? We're going to rewrite our language around that because words are powerful and we don't want to keep affirming to this avatar, I'm having a hard time, I'm having a hard time, I'm having a hard time. I said, you're not having a hard time. You're actually just moving through something. You're shedding old behavior. You're evolving. Nature doesn't bloom on command. It curls up. It dries out. It sheds. It rests. It regenerates. And humans, we are nature. But the time program, it doesn't let you act and be the natural being that you are. It tries to turn your healing into a performance review. So we went a little deeper. I said to my client, okay, there's a root program under that, and it's usually time plus shame. You should have done it faster. What took you so long? And then she said something that made it even clearer. She described being in a room with her peers at work. Everyone was married, she said. Everyone had kids. And she's sitting there looking around the room thinking, I'm the only one without a ring. And in that moment, she wasn't just feeling lonely, she was comparing her timeline to a social template. And that template is one of the most violent time programs on the planet, because it implies that there's a correct schedule for your life. Graduate at this age, marry by this age, kids by a certain age, career by a certain age, success, and enlightenment. And if you miss the timeline, then something must be wrong with you, or you must be having a hard time. That's the lie. That's the conditioning. That's the program. So I asked my client a question. I ask often, I said, so whose rule is that says you're having a hard time, that you should have done it faster? Where in the manual does it say that this is supposed to take only a certain amount of time? And what makes you think you're not right on time? Because the second you ask, whose rule is that? You can feel it. If it's a rule, it's usually not yours. Real truth doesn't come in rule form. Rules are programs. Programs designed to keep us in control. So then we went just a little bit deeper. And my client revealed to me that her mother had said to her repeatedly growing up, you come into this world alone and you're going to leave alone. Do you hear that? That's not just a saying. That's a belief installation. And if a child hears that enough, the subconscious mind can internalize being alone is inevitable. Remember, when the subconscious mind is being formed, this literally makes me emotional because it's so vital that we understand this so that we can change our verbiage and help the next generation grow up without these disempowering programs. But if a child hears something enough during these formative years when they're in this theta brainwave state, this hypnotic state where they're just downloading truth, they're not looking at it, analyzing it, deciding what to keep, what not to keep. It's all truth to them. And it becomes, these repetitive words become our belief system that create our reality. And then we end up unconsciously building a life that recreates that belief. We don't do it intentionally, we do it subconsciously. It's the way this avatar works, and it's vital that we all start to understand how it works. You end up when you download a belief, so your mother says you come into this world alone and you're going to leave alone, and you hear this your whole life, and it's something that it's not a conscious thought anymore. It's just a belief that's running underneath, just like the sky is blue and there's gravity, and if I touch fire, it's hot. It just believes it to be true. So you create a reality around that subconsciously. You take that job that keeps you traveling. You stay busy enough to avoid closeness. You pick people who really can't meet you all the way. So your relationships don't last. You end up not prioritizing friendships. Maybe you prioritize work. And you keep your world structured in a way that confirms the program. Then you call it fate. You call it, oh, my mother was right. But your mother wasn't right, and it wasn't fate. It was programming. And the moment you see it, the moment you shine the light into that dark closet and you see that program, that's the moment you get your power back. Because now you have choice. You have choice to choose differently. And here's where time ties in again. Even our self-talk, like my client, even her self-talk about the last 2 weeks and how she'd been having a hard time was shaped by, I should be further along in my emotional process. She was trying to hurry up her healing, hurry up her grief, hurry up her loneliness, hurry up her adult self being present in her body again, and that all the disempowering beliefs and subconscious programming to just go away in like a couple of nights. Like, it's not a process. It's a process. But so many of us do this. We try to hurry grief. We try to hurry loneliness. We try to hurry a nervous system into trust. We try to hurry ourselves into being over it. And the nervous system doesn't respond to pressure. It responds and it settles to safety. Which means if your strategy is to shame yourself into being faster, you're literally using the same tactic that dysregulated you as a child. And that's not reparenting. That's reenactment. That's reinstalling the program. So how do we rewrite the time program, and what does it look like? Well, first of all, you stop using time to measure your worth. You start using time as information, and information is neutral. If you didn't do what you said you'd do today, you don't attack yourself. You get curious. You ask yourself questions instead. Maybe they sound like, did I overestimate my capacity to do this? Was I trying to do it perfectly? Is that why I didn't get it done? Maybe was I trying to avoid being seen? Or was I just feeling emotionally dysregulated? Did I really just need rest, but I was ignoring myself? Maybe I said yes to too many things. Where do I have the opportunity to say no? Was I rushing just to prove something? And who was I trying to prove it to? And why did I feel like I needed to prove it? Asking yourself questions with curiosity, that's leadership. Curiosity is leadership. Shame is not leadership. And if you notice procrastination in yourself, instead of saying, what is wrong with me? I always do this. I can never seem to just do things when I need to get them done. I always wait till the last minute. Try instead saying something like, my system must not feel safe yet. Why is that? And then reparent yourself. Speak to the younger part of you that's scared. Not like a drill sergeant, but like an adult who can actually hold space for you. Who can say, I see you, I hear you, we're safe, we're not in trouble, we're not late for our worth, we're building something new one step at a time. And then you want to take one clean action that's different than what maybe you normally would do. Not a huge action. Just something like, I've been procrastinating putting this spreadsheet together recently. The past couple of months, actually. And the other day, I recognized it had been on my to-do list, and I kept just week after week, just skipping over it. And this week I looked at it, and instead of shaming myself, like, look at, you skipped over it again today, like, God, you just keep not doing that. Why do you keep not doing it? I got curious with myself. And I realized that the spreadsheet was shining a light on something that I didn't necessarily want to look at right now. That made me feel a little nervous, a little scared, a little bit like behind because of a time program. And so, as I'm saying to you, I decided to take just one small action. I thought, you know what? Now is the moment. I'm not going to skip over it. I'm not maybe going to put the whole spreadsheet together right now, but I'm going to take a bite out of this elephant, okay? I'm going to start the process. That comes from a question, which is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You know, when you have a huge project in front of you or something, remember, it's just one bite at a time. Oh, that's kind of gruesome because I would never want to eat an elephant, so maybe I should stop using that analogy. So we want to take one small action. Oh, you know, pull open the Excel spreadsheet, put a name on it. You know, format it just a little bit, but don't put any information. Do something. Write that first paragraph that you've been putting off. Make the phone call, send the email. You know, just do a couple squats. If you've been procrastinating exercising, like get up and literally just go do 25 squats, like right now. You haven't been hydrating enough? Go get that water, drink it now. Do whatever the smallest thing is that you can do next that tells your nervous system we're actually moving forward and we're safe. Because safety isn't a concept. Safety is a lived experience. But before I go too long in this podcast, I want to make sure I talk about age, because I said I would in the beginning. And there seems to be this voice, at least for me, that tells me I'm too old. And I hear it a lot. I know the time program is strong. And I know that voice that I hear isn't my own voice. It's cultural programming. It's the matrix story of decline. It's the story that says you peak and then you fade. And I want to call out something that's kind of funny and kind of dark at the same time. We literally have a yearly ritual called birthdays where we announce our age like an identity spell. We repeat it out loud 3 times. We let people tell their stories about what it means. We anchor it. Heck, we blow out a candle. We have an incantation to another year. We're older. We're older. We're older. We reinforce it. We celebrate it with cake. And most of the stories that we're telling around age, they're not empowering. Remember, age is simply a data point. It's information. It's not a definition. And if you feel time pressure because of age, what you're actually feeling is a social script that's trying to author your life. It's been trying to author my life, and I have not allowed it to. I don't follow that manual anymore. I don't follow the age manual. I do what brings joy, what I want to do, what I feel compelled to do. And when the age program tries to enter my brain, I simply say to it, no, thank you. That's not my rule. Because we're not here to obey scripts. We're here to create. We're not here to get it right. We're here to experience, to experiment, to try it this way and then try it that way, to see what works and see what doesn't work. To learn what feels aligned with us and to learn what doesn't. To be flexible, to be like water and flow. Not to avoid because of age, avoid because of time, avoid because of some script that told us we should have done it by now or we can't do it because we're too old. So when the time program says you should be retired, I say, says who? And when the time program says you should have done more by now, I say, whose rule is that? And when the time program says you're behind, I say, behind what? Someone else's timeline? A cultural template? A comparison game? No, thank you. I'm right on time for my life. And I want that for you too. Because the most aligned, powerful version of you isn't created through pressure. She's created through safety, through gentleness, through consistent, loving repetition. Because repetition is the mother of learning. And you don't repeat things or have to repeat things because you're dumb. You repeat them because your body needs new evidence that that's how the nervous system rewires. That's how the subconscious updates. That's how the avatar changes the code through repetition. So before we close here, I want to offer you something practical. Because I have a feeling this episode's going to stir up a lot for a lot of people, hopefully in a good way. And if you want to go deeper, I'm also working on putting together a free time program workbook. It's going to include how to identify your personal time scripts, what the most common time branches like perfectionism, procrastination, urgency, and comparison are, a really simple real-time reframe method, things that you can do for your nervous system to stabilize, and a set of rewrite statements, the opposite of the code, as well as short awareness exercises to catch the program as it's running. So if you resonate with what you've heard on this episode and you'd like a workbook, I will put the link in the show notes to the free download. But here's your practice for the week. When you hear the time program voice, the one that is rushing, shaming, pressuring, comparing, I want you to simply listen for it. And when you hear it, don't argue with it. Don't push it away. And just identify it as a time program. That's it. And then I want you to choose one of these responses. Remind yourself, this is the reprogramming piece, okay? I recognize I'm running this time program. I'm going to remind myself that information is not identity. I'm going to ask myself, whose rule is this? Or maybe I'm going to say, I'm safe. I'm not behind. I'm simply becoming. I came here to be, not to do. And then take one clean step, one action forward, because the goal isn't to control time. The goal is to stop letting time control you. So we've got to show up different in the procrastination. We've got to show up different in the perfectionism. We keep, like you notice, oh, there I go procrastinating. We stop and we ask ourselves, why don't I feel safe here? And then we do the one thing to show ourselves that we actually are safe. Because these programs were developed in our childhood to keep us safe when we didn't have a voice, when we didn't have choice, and all we needed was connection. We needed to know we weren't going to be abandoned. We needed to know that we'd be accepted and loved. So we came up with personalities and ways of doing things to make sure that we would be accepted. Even if that just meant re-saying all the negative things that our caregivers said to us when we weren't on time. So as I said, the goal isn't to control time. The goal is to stop letting time control you. Life does not need to be a courtroom. It's a playground. And we don't have to win at life. We just have to live it. All right, my friends, thank you for being with me, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Reparenting Radio. If today's conversation supported you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who knows they were made for more than the patterns that they inherited. If you're ready for serious inner work and real transformation, personally or professionally, you can explore my leadership pathways at lisa-watson.com. And if you're raising little ones alongside your own healing, you'll find my children's books at awakentheone.org. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and keep reparenting the parts of you that are ready to come home to their authenticity.